So we got to look at the program right now at Ohio State and talk about exactly where they're at. This is a program that now has its fan base fighting an internal civil war, a civil war that is being fought on multiple fronts from the fans. You got a set of the fan base who has no faith whatsoever in Ryan Day. You got a set of the fan base who has no faith in Jim Knowles. You got a set of the fan base that is irritated with Larry Johnson. And then you got a set of the fan base that's like, it's okay. Everything is fine. And they're going at each other. And you see this within fan bases sometimes. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if multiple other fan bases are having similar issues right now. I have seen it with Tennessee fans arguing with one another. I have seen it with Alabama fans arguing with one another. And at the end of the day, this is part of the sport that we know with college football is that even their own fans aren't exactly able to quantify and figure out what is going on with their teams and come together with a reality check. So let's talk about Ohio State versus Oregon and this little pulse of the program. With Ohio State, you could tell the clear problem here was, the defense. There were little things you could complain about on the offensive side, abandoning the run game very early on in that ball game, in my opinion, at the very least. This is just how I'm seeing it. They abandoned the run game very early, I do agree, but the offense was not a problem. They were moving the ball up and down the field, and to be honest, if it wasn't for a drop snap by Will Howard, which to me was the most crucial play in this ball game, I think Ohio State wins the game if Will Howard does not drop that snap. You never know how that play turns out, but that's a third and short where I have confidence Ohio State converts because they were playing third downs behind the sticks a lot in that particular instance. They weren't behind the sticks. They were in a rhythm moving the football, and all of a sudden, with momentum, and then all of a sudden a drop snap kind of flips momentum the other way. But if you talk about what this defense for Ohio State was able to do, they did not necessarily play bad, but a couple of problems that you can find if you look at the film. Number one, tackling was poor, specifically from guys like Latham Ransom. Did not tackle well, and he did not shoot the gap. And shoot his gaps, rather. And I think a big thing that I took away here is I have heard for now 3 seasons about how Jim Knowles' defense is supposed to be aggressive, set the tone, dictate the pace to the offense. But I watched in Ohio State defense, and this is probably the first time, to be honest with you, under Jim Knowles, that this really happened, but especially in the last 2 seasons, this year and last year. You saw this Ohio State defense lack aggressiveness, lack a little bit of a trigger. And to be honest, they benched the guy who was the most aggressive, in my opinion. There is no reason why Arvell Reese is playing 4 snaps in the ball game against Oregon when he is one of probably the most twitched up and aggressive linebacker when you combine the two together. Now, Cody Simon shows flashes of great athleticism. So does Sonny Styles. But CJ Hicks, albeit, he's been good as a pass rusher, but other than as a pass rusher, he hasn't gone. He has not been able to really hold up. But Arvell Reese has. And the fact that he only played 4 snaps and then, 1 snap late in the game when Ohio State did hold them to a field goal, he was very crucial when he was out there on the field. And when they stopped him on 4th down, he got in there on a goal line snap. He was only in there in short yardage, goal line situations, and that was 4 snaps, which goes back to what we need to talk about here with Ohio State. They were not rotating players, and Oregon gassed them, absolutely gassed them. You could tell at the end of the game that Tyleik and Ty Hamilton, they were completely, Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton were completely gassed, out of breath. So, frankly, was Jack Sawyer, who I thought did not play great. And then I thought JT Tuimoloau played a great first 3 quarters. And in the 4th quarter, he was gassed and did not play amazing. They were able to bow up and get a stop in the 4th quarter, hold Oregon to a field goal. That was big time for them to get that goal line stand. I know, Zach Smith came out and tweeted and got everybody mixed up in Buckeye Nation about trying to score. Zach, why would you let them score? They had field goal issues earlier in the game. They literally missed an extra point. Make them execute a field goal. I honestly was thinking, I'm hoping that we can get lucky here and they mess up another field goal when I was watching the game. That's what I'm thinking here as an Ohio State fan, being like, I hope they screw this up like they screwed up the extra point and like they missed the field goal earlier in the game. They didn't. They executed. They scored the field goal, but they were only up by 1, and we got the ball to our offense with a timeout in our back pocket in just under 2 minutes. We were fine. We were good. The defense made some plays. And at the end of the day, part of what the problem was they just weren't fresh. That's why they got smoked in the run game, was because they weren't fresh. And that's why Oregon was able to move the ball in the second half with ease and take chunks of time off the clock at times. Even though they only got 10 points, Oregon was slower and more methodical because Jim Knowles did adjust in the second half. He played a lot more soft coverage, didn't give up the explosive plays, didn't isolate guys as often in man-to-man coverage, and certainly did not isolate as often in off man-to-man coverage where Denzel Burke got cooked. And let's talk about what happened with Denzel Burke. All right. That throw to Evan Stewart, it was perfectly timed. Not much you can do it. The one up the sidelines where he got burned on a double move, not really that much you can do. The only thing I could really criticize Denzel Burke for in that play was when he was burnt, he got to him, made contact, and let the man, Evan Stewart, drag him for 18 yards simply because Denzel Burke was trying to rip the ball out. Get him down, get him out of bounds, do whatever. He was pretty close to being out of bounds. Push him out. Save your defense from having to defend inside the 10 and have them defend from the 25-yard line. That'll help. That'll help a ton. Now, on the double move where Tez Johnson smoked them, why in the world on 3rd down and 9 are you bringing a simulated pressure where you are dropping all 4 defensive linemen and basically only rushing 2 linebackers and a half rush from a safety? That's sure you can account for trickery and short yardage situation there on 3rd and 2. You know, that's the type of play that you see JT Tuimoloau out in that freak game against Penn State end up lurking and getting a pick on Sean Clifford. That wasn't the case here. It was 3rd and 9. Play some defense. If you're going to bring extra guys for a pass rush, send the house. If you're going to play man-to-man on the outside, send the house. Don't give Dillon Gabriel time to be able to let a little bit of a double move by Tez Johnson break free, because hardly any corner in America is actually able to guard a double move like that. Now, when Denzel got smoked, he's got to be able to make up a little bit of ground, especially if the ball is fluttering in the air and waiting. But the pass rush did not help in that situation. And frankly, it wasn't even the pass rush's fault. It was the play call's fault. And that's where it lies on Jim Knowles. And at the end of the day, I think Jim Knowles is in a situation where he's trying to do his thing while working with an identity that is not his. On these 3rd down situations, I get where Larry Johnson is coming from with the 4 down linemen. Do it the same way that Larry Johnson has been doing it. We saw back in 2021, the lead sack getter in America be Malcolm Rodriguez out at Oklahoma State. That Jack or Leo position, whatever you want to call it, that's what he played, the stand-up edge rusher. And Ohio State has athletes that fit that bill. Arvell Reese could play that position. Mitchell Melton, who's currently playing as an edge rusher, could fit that position. You have CJ Hicks, who has struggled in pass coverage, who has struggled filling holes in the run game, but who has been excellent when sent on blitz in pass rush. He's been one of the best players on Ohio State's team in pass rush situations. Why not? This is a crazy idea from me here, just thinking out loud. Why not have 3 of Larry Johnson's guys in that Rushman package in? You have Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer. Those 4. A combination of 3 of those 4 guys in the game, and then you have CJ Hicks as a stand-up edge rusher. I literally just watched Kyle Kennard from South Carolina play a 9 wide or a wide 9 technique on third downs, standing up half the time, getting after the most athletic quarterback in America in Jalen Milroe all day on third down. All day. There is no reason why Ohio State on third down and long cannot get pressure on the opposing quarterback. So where do I stand on the civil war that we're talking about with Ohio State football? A lot of these fans are trying to put the blame on Ryan Day. A lot of these fans are trying to put the blame on Jim Knowles. I'm going to first off say, be careful when it comes to assigning blame on a particular individual when it comes to this loss. It was a fantastic game, and Ohio State battled, Oregon battled, and Ohio State made some mistakes. A lot that honestly people cannot comprehend. The average college football fan is going to look at this and be like, Oregon left points on the field. I'm going to look at it as a guy who just watched the All-22 and be like, hey, Ohio State does not have an identity on defense. They have a massive identity crisis on defense, but they have the talent to be able to be the best defense in America. So what do you do with that, right? This better be a long bye week for all of the defensive coaching staff. And the offense is not in the clear. Like I said, I thought Chip Kelly abandoned the run game way too early. I thought there were a little bit of – I did not think it was a well-called game by Chip Kelly. I'm just going to put that out there. But that's not the biggest problem because I saw them against Iowa be able to run the football. I know they're capable of it. Nobody does that against Iowa. And I still saw moments against Oregon running the football where Ohio State was dominant on the line of scrimmage. They were winning their one-on-one battles on the outside. G. Scott Jr. showed up as a tight end threat in the receiving game, which is something we have not had. We had questions about at the very least with that tight end position is will one of these guys emerge as a receiving threat? We know that Bennett Christian is really good in the run game. We know that G. Scott leaves a lot to be desired in the run game. If G. Scott's going to be out there, he's got to be a bigger mismatch in the throw game. He was a big mismatch in the throw game against Oregon, especially in the first half. You got to have a long meeting on the defense. The first thing that this Ohio State defensive staff and Ryan Day need to talk about, rotation. That is the first thing. You got to get these younger guys on the field. Arvell Reese and CJ Hicks and maybe even Gabe Powers need to get onto the field and let Cody Simon and Sonny Styles catch their breath. You need to get guys like Caden McDonald and Hero Canoe onto the field into a position where you're confident in them playing a handful of snaps, even in a big game, to get Tyleek and Ty Hamilton some rest. You need to get guys like Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, some reps so that way you can get JTT and Jack Sawyer some rest. I thought Jack Sawyer looked like crap. I thought JTT played an excellent game, and he got gassed in the fourth quarter. If you rotate these guys, maybe we even see Malik Hartford get in there for Latham Ransom on occasion. And Caleb Downs is an exception to me because I feel like Caleb Downs was one of the few players that didn't get gassed in the game. If you do have a corner who is in a little bit of a slump, like Denzel was on Saturday, or like Davison Igbinosun had been at times this year, pull him off the field for a few plays, let him catch a breather, let him reset, and let him just sit maybe a series or so because you have Jermaine Matthews, a freshman All-American from a year ago, sitting on the bench, chomping at the bit, ready to get on the field. And that kid's going to transfer if you don't get him on the field. And I hate to break it to you, to Ohio State coaches, he is too good to be off the field. I am a big Jermaine Matthews fan. He is amazing. Get that kid on the field when one of these corners are struggling. It's really that simple. So where I stand on the Civil War, guys, quit blaming Ryan Day. Quit blaming the coaching staff. Trust that they get it fixed. Because if this guy here sees all these problems, I know they see it too. And it will blow my mind if Ohio State plays Penn State in a couple of weeks and we come back and we see this same thing, because I guarantee you this is what Penn State and Andy Kotelnicki are going to do after they saw that defensive film for Ohio State. Tempo. They're going to run tempo. They're going to go quick to the line of scrimmage. You might see it from Nebraska before that with Mark Whipple, but especially Andy Kotelnicki, he's going to do a bunch of creative things with personnel groupings that you have not seen and you will not see again. So they're going to do that, and they're going to do it using tempo. So how about Ohio State staff figures this crap out? But if you're a Buckeye fan, sit back, relax, let them figure it out, and watch on November 2nd against Penn State. They got to get through Nebraska first. But watch that big game against Penn State November 2nd, and that'll answer whether or not we have the correct coaching staff to go win a national championship. If we have the same problems rear its ugly head again on the defensive side of the ball against Penn State, we don't have the right guys. It's that simple. If they get it fixed against Penn State, guess what? They're going to win that game, and they'll have another test going forward, and they might end up playing Oregon again. And if they make the proper adjustments against Oregon, you will go into the playoff very confident that Ohio State will win the national championship. That's the bottom line. So if you are taking part in the social media civil war for Ohio State, take a step back, relax, and let the coaches undo what they have done wrong. Because if I see it, I guarantee you they see it.